Hi, Marlene. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me, Judy.
Absolutely. Marlene, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody. Welcome to our next 15 minutes with Judy. I'm Judy Plotz, Chief Customer Officer at Support Logic. And I am absolutely thrilled to be joined today by Marlene Summers. Marlene is a phenom in this industry of ours, support and success. So, Marlene, tell me, last Friday, International Women's Day, what did you do?
So last week I actually had off and I went back to Redwood City, where I basically lived in the Bay Area for almost 20 years and started my career there,
Yeah.
and then moved to Austin, Texas just over 2 years ago. So I actually went back for the first time to actual Redwood City, not San Francisco, to see my friends and family. And we organized a literal reunion from my former company called Zuora. And so we had about 15 people, mostly support and some product managers and engineering people. And it was really fun. Some of them I've known literally for 14 years, and some were relatively new. So it was great to catch up with people and talk about all the cool things that they've been doing. And it was a really good time.
That's a great way to spend the day or the weekend.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you.
It's we always say it, right? When we leave an organization, we should stay in touch. And I'm so glad that you're one of those who does. I've been blessed to know you for a number of years. And you actually sent me a text on International Women's Day, which was really sweet and kind. And I appreciated that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I love that day and the movement and seeing how it's progressed throughout the years and how much more we still need to do. But it's good that it's out there and we have people speaking and giving their perspectives.
absolutely. Yeah. We're going to talk a bit about that together today. I want to focus our time together around the topic. It's a very timely month, of course, Women's History Month, but also, coming on the tail of International Women's Day. And, let's talk about women in this industry of ours and, some of your observations and such. But before we go, too far there, why don't you tell everybody else a little bit about your career? I'm blessed to know your history, but why don't you tell the listeners?
Yeah, that's a good challenge to try to do it in a short segment and not 45 minutes. But my passion for computers came at an early age from my father, who was an orthopedic surgeon, but he was convinced in the 80s that computers could really revolutionize the healthcare industry and actually bring more affordable healthcare to individuals by lowering the cost of actually running a medical practice. And he was a private practice practitioner. So instead of having 10 people working in his office, he actually used computers and had it down to 3. That was my first job, being a little intern there with the computers. And then I also cleaned the office. So that was also one of my first jobs. So I started actually at IBM in Silicon Valley as a software engineer. I loved computers and coding, but I kind of felt that there was a part of me missing. I would think most people back then, I was never super introverted, but I was definitely more introverted than now. But kind of the practice of software engineering back then was pretty isolating. So I was like, I want something with more people. So I did project and program management. I got to work in operations and cloud about 15 years ago, launching products from on-prem to the cloud, and then kind of fell into management at a 10-person startup, and then kind of fell in love with startups and cultures and building what would then be post-sales with support and success programs. So it was a really good ride at that company, Zuora, that I talked about. I was there almost 10 years. I joined Vlocity, which was a partner company of Salesforce. And we got acquired in 2020. Had a great ride at Salesforce. And now I'm super excited to start my new role next week.
That's awesome. I know we're not talking about it yet, but I look forward to sending you a congratulatory email on Monday when you start your new role. So let's talk about that fall thing that you mentioned. You fell into leadership. Describe yourself as a leader for me.
That's like a pretty standard interview question that I got asked. So I had some good interview ones, but I won't do that one. So I would say too, and even getting, goodbye messages from my team and people that worked at Salesforce, people say like, I'm just really unique. And I think part of that, or if you were going to use a word, it's authentic. But I think that that's somewhat of a little bit of a buzzword nowadays. But for me, like, I just want to be myself and bring my experiences to the table and share those with those that I work for me, that I work for, and the teams that I collaborate with. And so I think uniqueness would probably be the one way to describe it. I think my style is not necessarily for everybody, but I have had a lot of success, and I do try to like continuously work on myself and my growth as a leader. I think, especially like being in management for like my first long stint at Zuora, going to my next job at Vlocity, I'm like, oh, I got all these great things, and I'm just going to apply myself to the new job, and it'll all be, like, I know all these things now. I've seen a lot, and you do see a lot, but you really realize too, like, things keep changing, circumstances change, your position power changes, the teams that you're leading, and the different, 4 generations that we have working in the workforce. There's a lot of change. We had the pandemic, we had a whole lot of different experiences that go on, and so you're never quite done, and you always need to be investing in yourself as a leader and learning from other leaders, great leaders like yourself, Judy, and other people that I admire. And I think in that way, you're just always keeps you on your toes, but it's also super rewarding. And it's one of the main reasons I love tech in this career so much.
Yeah. It's awesome. Marlene, I'll say to you that you are an authentic leader. I've felt that ever since you and I have met, right? Like, this is what you get, right? And, I've watched your teams really care for you in that manner too. And I think when you do show up as your true and authentic self, it is easier to lead. It is easier to take your team on that journey. People can sniff out the inauthentic and the false, right? And then what have you done? You've built a house of cards, right? That isn't okay, and no one feels safe, right? And I think that's one thing I'd say. You've always given people a safe place. So, hats off to you for that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So tell me something, when we talk about women in leadership, I think we could do, tomes on this one. What do you think the benefits when you think especially about support individuals, our teams, and support is a unique place to be. It's, you come in every day. You don't have a well-planned day. We all know that. Why do you think that support employees benefit from females in leadership?
So many ways. I mean, first, our customers, and really being a reflection of who is out there using our products, both like sometimes the direct customer, like the person that's contacting us because they own the product, but also their customers, like who they're serving, whatever business they are. Like my particular products at Salesforce was Industries Cloud. So we're also in some very specific industries. And every industry is different, but we had one, especially like in education, nonprofit, places where there are a majority of women. So making sure that we're reflective of who our customer base is and that they can relate to that. I think in general too, that's why I love global teams in support, and having presence in countries that your customers are in. And it doesn't have to be everybody, it doesn't have to be for everything 24/7, but it just gives a lot of I think ability for people to relate to you and see like kind of themselves in that way. I think for me too, as a mother of 4 girls, and like I talked about, there's women in like coming into the workforce now, like in their 20s, and people of all different groups that are not fully represented in tech. And so to see people in leadership that look like them, that have a background like them, it's just like, I think it's really difficult, and it's not impossible because obviously people have to get there, but if you can't see something, it's really hard to be it. And in that way. And so even for people that don't want to be role models, you are like a role model. You're somebody that has made it. And I think one of the things that's unique in support in some ways, even, early career people that have worked for me in these 4 organizations in their 20s, that job is sometimes the best job that anybody in their whole family has ever got. And if you say best by like money standards or by like career kind of standards. And so they also might be looking around in their family or their direct community and nobody has got that far. So they're like, okay, so they're starting out, like, how do they know what they need to do? Do they want to like stay technical? Do they want to go into management? Like, what are the pros and cons? And so having women and other groups and a diversity in your management team just shows people, hey, like this is what's possible. And like, this is like how, and being able to see that. And so I think it's super, super important, that part, like the customer part, and then for your own team to see that these things are possible for them.
Absolutely. You hit on a lot of things there, and I want to come back to them all independently. So let me start with the one we talked about, the benefits to the employees, the benefits to the organization by having women in leadership. I'm going to turn that back on you. How have you benefited by being a female leader?
I think the support that I've gotten, like both from like females, you have female managers and like peers above me, but as well as male managers, has been really good. That kind of understanding of knowing that sometimes you've been like the only person in the room for so long, and you looked around and like there just wasn't a lot of people like you, and almost got to the point where when I first joined Salesforce, because it was such a large company and it was pandemic and we'd jump on Zooms and it was like all women in a meeting, I was just like shocked because I never had that. I was like, this is great. Like, oh my God, this is like so good in that way. And so I think it's been good too to see different types of female leaders. I think there was definitely, and not that it's completely gone, but more of a stigma that if you have to be the archetype of a male, even if you are a woman or somebody that's underrepresented, just do what those people are doing and be a certain way. And so it was very like cookie cutter, like, don't have long hair, don't wear bright clothes, don't stand out, like accessorize, like do all these things. And so as there's more diversity and there's more inclusion of different people, then it's like there isn't just one way that you have to be. And so I think I definitely like benefited from that, because there were totally different points where there was one job that I started like over 15 years ago, and I literally dyed my hair brown because I was young and I thought I'd look smarter than if I had blonde hair. And this is me, like the feminist. I was working in the women's center in college, but in my mind that made a lot of sense. Sure. And so like that kind of thing too, just seeing like the first time I saw in person at events like around 2017 and on LinkedIn, like women with purple hair, like executives, I was so excited.
Absolutely.
Anything where people can actually be themselves, and it's allowed, and it's not just a soundbite, it's actually appreciated and celebrated. I think that's very important.
Absolutely. I agree with you completely. Same with the colors, same with the, accoutrements that we wear, right? Let me have it. Don't make me hide it.
Yeah.